At 0400 hours on April 16, 1945, 20,000 Soviet artillery pieces opened fire simultaneously along the Oder River. The barrage is 1 million shells fired in 30 minutes. The ground shakes for 38 miles. German positions simply cease to exist. Marshal Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov stands at his command post watching the horizon turn orange with explosions. 143 searchlights switch on, illuminating the battlefield like daylight. The glare blinds defenders and attackers alike. This is Zhukov's innovation. He believes the lights will help. They do not. His tanks advance anyway. 56 miles west lies Berlin, the capital of the Third Reich. Hitler waits in his bunker. 2.5 million Soviet soldiers move toward him in the largest concentration of military power ever assembled in human history. 6,250 tanks roll forward. 7,500 aircraft fill the sky. 41,600 artillery pieces and mortars support the advance. This is not war. This is annihilation. Stalin has issued orders. Berlin must fall. The Red Army will take it. Not the Americans. Not the British. The Soviets will plant their flag on the Reichstag. 2 marshals will compete for that honor. Zhukov commands the 1st Belarusian front attacking from the east. Ivan Konev commands the 1st Ukrainian front attacking from the south. Between them, they will destroy Army Group Vistula and capture the Nazi capital. Whichever marshal reaches Berlin first receives eternal glory. The one who lags faces Stalin's wrath. This is the man who never lost a battle conducting the final campaign of the European War. This is how Georgy Zhukov survived Stalin's purges by being too valuable to kill. This is the race to Berlin. Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov is born December 1, 1896 in Strelkovka village, Kaluga province. His family are peasants. Poor peasants. His father, Konstantin Artemyevich, works as a cobbler when he is not farming. His mother, Ustinia Artemyevna, raises 4 children. 2 die young. Georgy and his sister Maria survive. There is never enough food. There is never enough warmth. There is only work and winter, and the knowledge that life will not improve. Zhukov receives 3 years of schooling total. He learns to read. He learns basic mathematics. Then he goes to Moscow at age 10 to apprentice with his uncle in the fur trade. He becomes a furrier. The work is precise and demanding. Wealthy customers require perfection. Zhukov learns discipline. He learns attention to detail. He learns that failure means hunger. These lessons will serve him when he commands armies. August 1914 brings war. Russia mobilizes against Germany and Austria-Hungary. Zhukov is conscripted into the Imperial Russian Army in August 1915. He joins the 10th Cavalry Division as a private soldier. The Dragoons. He is assigned to the Novgorod Regiment. Cavalry in 1915 still charges with sabers, still scouts terrain on horseback, still believes in shock action and mounted maneuver. Zhukov learns to ride, learns to fight, learns that officers from aristocratic families despise peasant soldiers. He notes this. He remembers October 1916 finds his unit fighting near Kharkov against Austro-Hungarian forces. Zhukov distinguishes himself in combat. He captures an enemy officer while operating behind German lines. He is awarded the Cross of St. George twice for valor. Then a mine concusses him. Shell shock leaves him deaf for weeks. He recovers, returns to his regiment. The war continues. March 1917 brings revolution. Tsar Nicholas II abdicates. The provisional government assumes power. The army disintegrates. Officers are murdered by their own men. Regiments vote on whether to obey orders. Zhukov watches discipline collapse. He understands that armies without discipline cannot fight, cannot win. This lesson shapes his future command philosophy. November 1917 brings the Bolshevik Revolution. Lenin seizes power. Civil war follows. Zhukov joins the Communist Party in March 1919. His peasant background makes him politically reliable. His combat record makes him militarily valuable. The Red Army needs men who can fight. Zhukov can fight. He serves in cavalry brigades throughout the Civil War against White Russian forces. 1st Cavalry Army under Semyon Budyonny becomes legendary. Zhukov learns cavalry operations on the vast Russian steppes, mass-mounted formations, rapid maneuver, encirclement. The tactics that will later translate to tank warfare. In 1921, he receives the Order of the Red Banner for suppressing the Tambov Rebellion, peasant uprising against Bolshevik grain requisitioning. Zhukov fights peasants like himself. This is civil war. Brother kills brother. The winner writes history. Peace brings professional military education. Zhukov attends officer training courses. He graduates in 1920. Studies continue. In 1925, he goes to the Front's Military Academy, the premier military school in the Soviet Union. 3 years of intensive study. Tactics, strategy, combined arms operations. He graduates 1929 with distinction. In 1930, he travels to Germany for advanced training in armored warfare. Germany is not yet Nazi. The Weimar Republic cooperates secretly with the Soviet Union to evade Versailles Treaty restrictions. Both countries benefit. Zhukov sees German panzer tactics being developed. He understands immediately that tanks will dominate future warfare. 1933 brings command of the 4th Cavalry Division. He is 36 years old, rising rapidly, too junior to threaten Stalin. This saves his life. 1937 brings the Great Purge. Stalin liquidates potential rivals throughout the party and military. The statistics are catastrophic. 13 of 15 Red Army commanders executed. 8 of 9 admirals shot. 50 of 57 Army Corps commanders eliminated. 154 of 186 division commanders purged. The Red Army loses approximately 36,000 officers. Many are shot. Others sent to gulags. Some simply disappear. Zhukov survives. His relatively junior rank makes him invisible to Stalin's paranoid scrutiny. His reputation among surviving commanders protects him. When commissars denounce him, senior officers vouch for his loyalty. One commissar who accuses Zhukov finds himself purged instead. The message is clear. Zhukov has protectors. He has value. He survives by being competent but not threatening. Valuable but not dangerous. Useful but not powerful enough to challenge Stalin. This is the narrow path that keeps him alive. The purges hollow out Soviet military leadership completely. Inexperienced officers command divisions. Political commissars hold veto power over military decisions. Doctrine becomes secondary to ideology. The Red Army in 1938 is weaker than the Red Army in 1936, despite increased numbers. Stalin has murdered his best commanders. Hitler notices. This weakness invites invasion. May 1939 brings crisis in Mongolia. The Mongolian People's Republic is a Soviet client state. Japan controls Manchukuo, a puppet state in northern China. The border between Mongolia and Manchukuo is disputed. Both sides claim the same territory. Small clashes escalate. On May 11th, Japanese forces cross the Khalkhin-Gol River and occupy Mongolian territory. The Soviets cannot allow this. Mutual defense treaties require response. Moscow must act or lose credibility. Stalin must demonstrate that post-purge, Red Army can still fight. The command goes to Corps Commander Georgy Zhukov. He is 42 years old, unknown outside military circles. This is his first independent command. His future depends on victory. Failure means execution. Stalin does not tolerate losing generals. Zhukov understands the stakes completely. He arrives at Khalkhin-Gol on June 5, 1939. The situation is unfavorable. Soviet forces are disorganized. Supply lines stretch 600 miles from Chita. The terrain is open steppe with no cover. Summer heat exceeds 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Water is scarce. The Japanese occupy high ground. They have dug in. They wait. Zhukov assesses the situation methodically. He needs overwhelming force. He needs supplies. He needs time to prepare. Small skirmishes continue through June and July. The Japanese attack repeatedly. Zhukov absorbs the attacks, studies Japanese tactics, identifies weaknesses, plans counteroffensive. Logistics become his priority. 3,800 trucks and 1,375 fuel tankers form the supply convoy. They drive day and night across desert tracks. 868 miles round trip. The trucks transport 18,000 tons of artillery shells, 6,500 tons of bombs, 15,000 tons of liquid fuel, troops, weapons, everything needed for major offensive. General Grigory Mikhailovich Stern, commander of Trans-Baikal Military District, organizes this effort. Without those supplies, victory is impossible. With them, victory becomes inevitable. By mid-August, Zhukov has assembled overwhelming force, 57,000 Soviet troops, 498 BT-5 and BT-7 tanks, 557 aircraft, 2 Mongolian cavalry divisions, plus extensive artillery. The Japanese have approximately 38,000 troops, 180 tanks, 450 aircraft. Zhukov enjoys numerical superiority in every category. The Japanese are unaware of this. Soviet deception operations are excellent. Radios broadcast false information. Construction noise masks troop movements. Trucks and aircraft operate continuously to muffle deployment sounds. The Japanese believe the Soviets are digging in for winter. They are wrong. August 20th, 1939. 545 hours. Soviet artillery opens fire. 557 aircraft attack Japanese positions simultaneously. The bombardment lasts 3 hours without pause. One Japanese officer describes it as the gongs of hell. Artillery falls at 2 to 3 rounds per second continuously. The earth shakes. Japanese trenches collapse. Men are buried alive. Communications are severed. Command and control disintegrates. At 845 hours, Soviet ground forces attack. Infantry pins Japanese forces in place. Tanks execute double envelopment. Left wing and right wing sweep around Japanese flanks. The maneuver is classic Hannibal at Cannae. Fix the center. Crush the flanks. Close the trap. Japanese 23rd Division, commanded by Lieutenant General Michitaro Komatsubara, realizes the danger too late. His flanks are covered by unreliable Manchukuo cavalry. They break immediately. Soviet armor pours through the gaps. The encirclement closes August 25th. Japanese 23rd Division is surrounded. 30,000 men trapped. No supplies. No ammunition resupply. No hope. Breakout attempts fail. Soviet firepower is overwhelming. By August 31st, Japanese 23rd Division ceases to exist. 75% of Japanese frontline troops are killed. Casualties approach 50,000 out of 60,000 men committed. Some estimates go higher. The destruction is total. Lieutenant General Komatsubara survives the battle. He does not survive the shame. Later in 1939, he commits seppuku, ritual suicide, disemboweling himself with his short sword to prove sincerity to the emperor. This is how Japanese officers face failure. Death restores honor. September 15th brings ceasefire. The Soviet Union and Japan sign armistice agreement in Moscow. The border is fixed where Mongolia claimed it should be. Stalin achieves strategic victory. Japan learns a terrible lesson. Soviet military power is formidable despite the purges. Further aggression against Soviet territory will be costly, prohibitively costly. The battle changes Japanese strategic thinking fundamentally. The Northern Expansion Doctrine, advocating war against the Soviet Union, is discredited. The Southern Expansion Doctrine gains ascendancy. Japan will attack southeast toward European colonies and the Pacific rather than north toward Siberia. This decision shapes World War II completely. In June 1941, Germany invades the Soviet Union. Japan does not attack from the east. Stalin can transfer Siberian divisions westward to defend Moscow. Those divisions save the Soviet capital. Khalkhin Gol makes that possible. Zhukov receives the title Hero of the Soviet Union. His first of 4. He is promoted to general. His reputation is established. He is the general who never lost a battle. Stalin notices, this man is valuable. Too valuable to purge. Too competent to waste. Zhukov becomes untouchable. Not safe. Never safe under Stalin, but valuable enough to survive. January 1941 brings appointment as Chief of the General Staff. Zhukov is now among the most powerful military officers in the Soviet Union. He sits at the center of military planning. He sees intelligence reports. He understands Germany is preparing to invade. He warns Stalin. Stalin dismisses the warnings. Stalin believes Adolf Hitler will honor the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Stalin is wrong. June 22, 1941. 315 hours? 3 million German troops invade the Soviet Union along an 1,800-mile front. Operation Barbarossa begins. 150 divisions, 3,600 tanks, 650,000 horses, 7,000 artillery pieces, 2,800 aircraft. This is the largest invasion force in history. The Germans achieve complete surprise. Soviet border forces are annihilated in hours. Stalin is in shock. For 3 days he remains paralyzed. The communist state he inherited from Lenin is collapsing. The non-aggression pact he signed with Hitler is worthless. The purges that gutted his officer corps have left the Red Army unable to respond effectively. He has destroyed his own military. Now Germany is destroying his country. Zhukov moves immediately. As Chief of General Staff, he coordinates defensive operations despite Stalin's paralysis. He organizes retreats. He establishes new defensive lines. He prevents complete collapse. The first weeks are catastrophic anyway. German advances measure hundreds of miles. Entire Soviet armies are encircled and destroyed. Minsk falls. Smolensk falls. Kiev is threatened. Leningrad is besieged. Moscow itself is endangered. September 1941 brings Zhukov to Leningrad. The city is surrounded. German forces are attacking. Zhukov has 10 days to stabilize the situation or the city falls. He arrives and takes command. His methods are ruthless. Officers who retreat without orders are shot. Soldiers who show cowardice are executed. Defensive positions are held regardless of casualties. Zhukov does not care about losses. He cares about holding ground. The choice is simple. Die defending or die retreating. Better to die holding position. Leningrad does not fall. October 1941 brings German offensive toward Moscow. Operation Typhoon. 50 divisions. 1 million men. 1,700 tanks. 19,000 artillery pieces. This is the decisive push. Capture Moscow and the Soviet Union collapses. Hitler is certain. His generals are confident. Victory is within reach. Zhukov returns to Moscow October 10th. Takes command of Western Front defending the capital. The situation is desperate. German forces are 60 miles from Red Square. Panic spreads through the city. Government offices evacuate. Stalin prepares to flee. Zhukov tells him the city can be held. Stalin asks if he is certain. Zhukov says he is certain. Stalin believes him. Stalin stays. The government stays. Moscow will stand. November brings winter early. Temperatures drop below freezing. German offensive slows. Supply lines stretch. Fuel freezes. Men freeze. Equipment fails. The Wehrmacht is not equipped for winter warfare. German soldiers wear summer uniforms. Thousands suffer frostbite. Thousands die from exposure. The advance stalls. Zhukov sees the opportunity. December 5th, 1941. Soviet counteroffensive begins. Fresh Siberian divisions transferred from the Far East strike German flanks. These are troops from Khalkhin Gol. Experienced, equipped for winter, they know how to fight in sub-zero temperatures. The Germans do not. The Soviet attack achieves surprise. German lines bend. German units retreat. Moscow is saved. This is the first major German defeat of World War II. Hitler's armies are not invincible. They can be stopped. They can be beaten. Zhukov proves this. His reputation grows. Stalin elevates him to Deputy Commander-in-Chief of Soviet Armed Forces in August 1942. He becomes Stalin's personal military advisor, member of Stavka, the Supreme High Command. He plans or executes every major Soviet operation for the remainder of the war. September 1942 brings Stalingrad, the city on the Volga. The Germans attack. Brutal urban combat. House to house, room to room. The city is destroyed. Both sides pour in reinforcements. The battle becomes attritional. Whoever runs out of men first loses. Zhukov sees opportunity. While Germans focus on city fighting, he plans envelopment. Operation Uranus, November 19th, 1942. Soviet counteroffensive begins. 2 pincers north and south of Stalingrad. Romanian armies guarding German flanks collapse immediately. Soviet armor pours through. November 23rd. The pincers close. German 6th Army, commanded by Friedrich Paulus, is encircled. 300,000 men trapped. No supplies, no escape. Hitler orders them to hold position. Fight to the last man. Paulus obeys. The 6th Army fights through December. Through January. Starvation sets in. Ammunition runs out. Fuel is exhausted. February 2nd, 1943. Paulus surrenders. 91,000 survivors enter Soviet captivity. Most never return. Stalingrad is the turning point. Germany has lost an entire army. The strategic initiative shifts. The Soviets begin advancing. Slowly, expensively, but advancing. Zhukov is promoted to Marshal of the Soviet Union in January 1943. The rank is highest in the Red Army. He is 46 years old. From peasant furrier to marshal in less than 30 years. His rise is unprecedented. July 1943 brings Kursk. German counteroffensive. Last major German attack on Eastern Front. Operation Citadel. 50 divisions. 3,000 tanks. 10,000 artillery pieces. 2,000 aircraft. Hitler believes this offensive will regain initiative. Zhukov believes otherwise. Soviet intelligence knows the attack is coming. Knows where. Knows when. The Soviets prepare defensive positions in depth. Minefields. Anti-tank ditches. Fortifications. Artillery concentrations. The Germans will attack into prepared defenses. They will bleed. They will fail. July 5th. German offensive begins. The attack advances. slowly. Casualties are enormous. German tank losses are catastrophic. The Soviets trade space for time. Trade casualties for attrition. By July 12, German offensive is exhausted. Zhukov launches counterattack. The Germans retreat. They will never attack again on this scale. From Kursk forward, the Red Army attacks. The Wehrmacht defends. The initiative is lost permanently. Summer 1944 brings Operation Bagration, Soviet offensive into Belarusia. Destruction of German Army Group Center. The scale is staggering. 1.2 million Soviet troops, 4,000 tanks, 30,000 artillery pieces, 6,000 aircraft. The offensive begins June 23rd. Within 2 weeks, German Army Group Center ceases to exist. 28 divisions destroyed. 350,000 casualties. The collapse is total. Worse than Stalingrad. The Eastern Front is ripped open. Nothing stands between the Red Army and Germany. By January 1945, Soviet forces reach the Oder River, 40 miles from Berlin. The final offensive is being prepared. Stalin summons Zhukov and Konev to Moscow. April 1st, 1945. Stalin asks them directly which one will take Berlin. Zhukov says his forces will take the city. Konev immediately responds that his forces will take it. Stalin smiles. He enjoys competition. He encourages rivalry. Both marshals will attack. Whoever reaches Berlin first wins eternal glory. Whoever lags behind faces disgrace, perhaps execution. Stalin does not tolerate failure. Both marshals understand this completely. The plan is coordinated assault. Zhukov's first Belarusian front attacks from east directly toward Berlin. Konev's first Ukrainian front attacks from south. Konstantin Rokossovsky's second Belarusian front attacks from north protecting Zhukov's flank. Combined, they deploy 2.5 million men, 6,250 tanks, 41,600 artillery pieces, 7,500 aircraft. The Germans have approximately 1 million men defending. Many are Volkssturm militia. Old men and boys. Hitler Youth teenagers with Panzerfaust anti-tank weapons. Exhausted Wehrmacht divisions. SS fanatics willing to die for Hitler. The disparity is overwhelming. German defeat is inevitable. The question is not whether Berlin falls. The question is which marshal captures it. April 16, 1945. 400 hours. The offensive begins. 20,000 artillery pieces fire simultaneously. 1 million shells in 30 minutes. The barrage is unprecedented. German positions are obliterated. Zhukov orders 143 searchlights turned on. Massive beams illuminate the battlefield. The idea is to blind German defenders while lighting the way for Soviet tanks. The reality is different. Dust and smoke from the barrage reflects the light back. Soviet troops are blinded by their own searchlights. German defenders in fortified positions are unaffected. The tactic fails. Zhukov does not care. The advance continues. The objective is Silo Heights, the last major defensive line before Berlin. The heights overlook flat ground. German artillery and anti-tank guns dominate approaches. Marshy streams complicate tank movement. The Germans are dug in. They wait. Soviet forces attack anyway. The Battle of Silo Heights lasts 4 days. April 16 through 19. 1 million Soviet soldiers attack. 20,000 tanks and artillery pieces support them. 100,000 German soldiers defend. 1,200 tanks and guns. The fighting is brutal. Germans destroy Soviet tanks at close range with Panzerfausts. Soviet infantry attacks in waves. Wave after wave. Human wave attacks. Casualties are catastrophic. Soviet artillery fires without proper guidance. Kills Soviet soldiers. Friendly fire is common. Chaos is complete. Zhukov's plan is not working. The advance stalls. Casualties mount. 30,000 Soviet soldiers die in 4 days. 12,000 Germans killed. Progress is minimal. Stalin is informed. He is furious. The attack is behind schedule. Zhukov is failing. Stalin tells Konev to redirect his advance. Send tanks directly toward Berlin. The implication is clear. If Zhukov cannot take Berlin, Konev will. The race is real. The competition is deadly serious. Zhukov responds by sending wave after wave of infantry. Regardless of losses, regardless of casualties, the German defenses must be broken. On April 19th, the 4th day, First Belarusian Front finally breaks through the last defensive line at Silo Heights. The road to Berlin is open, 90 kilometers west. Nothing but broken German formations remain. The advance accelerates. Konev's forces break through simultaneously from the south, faster than Zhukov. advancing more rapidly. Stalin's redirection gives Konev opportunity to overtake Zhukov. Both marshals drive their men mercilessly. Casualties are secondary concern. Glory is primary objective. Speed matters more than lives. Berlin must fall. The marshal who captures it writes his name in history. April 20th, 1945. Hitler's 56th birthday. Soviet artillery begins bombarding Berlin city center. Shells fall on government buildings, on the Reichstag, on Hitler's bunker. The Führer's birthday present is high explosive and incendiary rounds. He hears the bombardment from underground. He knows the end approaches. He issues meaningless orders for non-existent armies to relieve Berlin. Nobody comes. Nobody can come. The armies are destroyed. Only Hitler's delusions remain. April 21. Soviet forces enter Berlin's outskirts. Street fighting begins. Urban combat is brutal. Building to building, room to room. Germans defend desperately. SS fanatics fight to the death. Hitler Youth attack tanks with Panzerfausts. Old men from Volkssturm fire from windows. Civilians caught in crossfire die by thousands. Nobody keeps accurate count. Berlin is being destroyed. Block by block, district by district. April 23. Konev's first Ukrainian front links up with Zhukov's first Belarusian front inside Berlin. The encirclement is complete. German forces remaining in the city are trapped. No escape, no relief. Only death or capture awaits. But the fighting continues. SS troops know they will be executed if captured. They fight on. Other Germans simply want the nightmare to end. The advance toward the Reichstag proceeds. Stalin has ordered it captured. The building has no military value. It has not been used since 1933, but it is symbolic. The seat of German government. Capturing it means victory. Soviet units race toward it. Competition continues even within units. Regiments compete. Companies compete. Individual soldiers compete for the honor of raising the Soviet flag on top. April 30th, 1945. Soviet soldiers storm the Reichstag. Vicious fighting inside. Stairwells, hallways, rooms. The building is fortified. Germans defend floor by floor. Soviet casualties are heavy. They advance anyway. By afternoon, Red Army soldiers reach the roof. Multiple flags are raised. Multiple soldiers claim the honor. The famous photograph showing the flag over Berlin is staged later. The real moment is chaotic, confused, deadly. But the Reichstag is taken. That same day, Hitler commits suicide in his bunker. He shoots himself with his pistol. Eva Braun, his wife of one day, takes cyanide. Their bodies are carried outside, doused with gasoline, burned. The remains are never properly identified. Hitler's 1,000-year Reich ends in a Berlin courtyard with his corpse smoldering in a shell crater. May 2nd, 1945. General Helmuth Weidling, commander of Berlin Defense Area, surrenders to Lieutenant General Vasily Zhukov of 8th Guards Army, 1st Belarusian Front. Zhukov's command. The battle is over. Berlin falls. Zhukov wins the race. Konev is ordered south to Prague, denied the final glory. Bitter but obedient. He goes, the cost is staggering. 81,000 Soviet soldiers killed during the drive from Oder to Berlin. Over 350,000 wounded. 2,000 tanks destroyed. German losses exceed 100,000 soldiers killed. 125,000 civilians dead. The city is devastated. 90% of buildings damaged or destroyed. Starvation is immediate. Disease follows. The occupation begins. Vengeance is brutal. Soviet soldiers rape German women on massive scale. Estimates range from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. Command attempts to stop it. Fails. The violence continues for weeks. Zhukov accepts German unconditional surrender in Karlshorst. Berlin on May 9th, 1945. He signs for the Soviet Union. The war in Europe is over. 27 million Soviet citizens are dead. The country is devastated. But victorious? Zhukov is the face of that victory. The general who never lost. The man who saved Moscow. The man who destroyed the 6th Army at Stalingrad. The man who captured Berlin. June 24, 1945 brings victory parade in Moscow. Zhukov rides a white Arab charger taking the salute in Red Square. Soviet soldiers throw captured Nazi banners and regimental standards before the Kremlin wall, just as Marshal Mikhail Kutuzov's forces did in 1812 with Napoleon's defeated Standardser. The parallel is intentional. Zhukov is the new Kutuzov, the savior of Russia, the destroyer of invaders. His moment of glory is complete. It is also his last moment of glory under Stalin. Stalin cannot tolerate rivals, cannot accept anyone more popular than himself. Zhukov's fame threatens Stalin's cult of personality. Within months, Stalin begins moving against him. Accusations surface. Zhukov is charged with Bonapartism, plotting to seize power, building personality cult. The charges are false. Everyone knows they are false. Nobody defends Zhukov, not even his supposed friends. Stalin's will is absolute. Marshal Alexander Novikov, head of Soviet air forces, is arrested in late 1945, tortured in Lefortovo prison, forced to sign confession implicating Zhukov in conspiracy. Novikov later admits he was broken. Desperate to stop the torture, he signed anything. The confession is fabricated. Stalin knows this. Stalin does not care. The confession provides justification. June 1946. Zhukov is relieved as commander of Soviet occupation zone in Germany, recalled to Moscow, stripped of command of ground forces, assigned to command Odessa military district, southern Ukraine. Remote, unimportant, a humiliation for the man who captured Berlin. Exile in disgrace, he understands what is happening. Stalin is preparing his execution, or worse. The purges are beginning again. Zhukov waits, expects arrest, expects torture, expects show trial, expects execution. Many lesser men have suffered this fate. Why should he be different? He is not different. He is only more famous. That makes him more dangerous to Stalin. The waiting continues through 1946, through 1947, through 1948. Arrest does not come. Why not? Stalin still needs him, or thinks he might need him. War with the West is possible. American atomic weapons threaten the Soviet Union. Stalin needs competent commanders if war comes. Zhukov is too valuable to waste. Again, still, always too valuable to kill. The pattern repeats. Zhukov survives by being useful, by being competent, by being irreplaceable. February 1953. Stalin orders Zhukov to return to Moscow. Zhukov believes war with the West is imminent. Stalin needs his military experience. This explains the recall. He is wrong. Stalin summons him for other reasons, reasons that will never be known. March 5, 1953. Joseph Stalin dies. Stroke. Age 74. The Soviet Union enters leadership crisis. Georgy Malenkov becomes first secretary temporarily. Lavrentiy Beria remains head of secret police. Most dangerous man in Soviet Union, architect of purges. Torturer. Mass murderer. The other leaders fear him. They need someone to eliminate him. Someone with authority in the army. Someone the military trusts. Someone brave enough to arrest the secret police chief. That someone is Zhukov. Nikita Khrushchev approaches Zhukov. The two men forged relationship during war. Khrushchev was political commissar in Ukraine. Zhukov commanded forces there. Twice during the war, Zhukov saved Khrushchev from false accusations. Khrushchev remembers. He needs Zhukov now. Will Zhukov help remove Beria? Zhukov agrees. June 26, 1953. Special meeting of Presidium. Beria attends unsuspecting. The meeting is called hastily. Beria feels uneasy but comes anyway. Zhukov has secretly ordered General Kirill Moskalenko to prepare special forces. Armed soldiers wait outside. At the signal, Zhukov enters the room from behind Beria. He shouts, "Rise." Beria turns. Zhukov and Moskalenko arrest him personally. Armed soldiers enter. Beria is taken. He is executed December 23, 1953 after secret trial. The most dangerous man in the Soviet Union is eliminated. Zhukov did it. 1953 brings Zhukov's appointment as Deputy Minister of Defense. 1955 brings promotion to Minister of Defense. He also becomes candidate member of Presidium. His rehabilitation is complete. The hero has returned. He begins reforming Soviet military, professionalizing officer corps, reducing role of political commissars, increasing army autonomy, making military more efficient, less political. These reforms are necessary. They are also dangerous. June 1957. Presidium majority attempts to oust Khrushchev. The so-called anti-party group, Malenkov, Molotov, Kaganovich, others, they vote to remove Khrushchev as first secretary. Khrushchev refuses to accept the vote. He demands full Central Committee meeting. The Central Committee members are scattered across Soviet Union, many in distant regions. How to get them to Moscow quickly? Khrushchev asks Zhukov. Zhukov provides military aircraft. Hundreds of Central Committee members are flown to Moscow in hours. Military transport. The balance shifts. Khrushchev survives. The plotters are expelled from Presidium. Zhukov is promoted to full Presidium membership in July 1957. Gratitude. Reward. Recognition. But Zhukov continues reducing party control over military, making army more autonomous, more professional, less ideological. Khrushchev cannot tolerate this. The party must control the army, not the other way. Zhukov is dangerous again, too powerful, too independent. Must be removed. October 1957. Zhukov visits Yugoslavia and Albania on official trip. While he is abroad, Presidium organizes special plenum. They wait for his return. Zhukov comes back to ambush. He is charged with Bonapartism again, with nurturing personality cult, with political adventurism, with straying from party line, with curtailing party grip on military. The charges are familiar. The result is predetermined. Not one person defends him. Not Khrushchev, whom he saved twice during the war. Not anyone. Silence. October 26, 1957. Zhukov is dismissed as Minister of Defense, removed from all party posts, forced into retirement. Age 60. The greatest military commander of World War II is finished, cast aside. Forgotten officially, though never forgotten by Soviet people. They remember what he did. They remember who saved them. Retirement brings writing. Zhukov works on memoirs, fishing, staying away from public life. Politics is finished for him. He remains hero to most Soviet citizens even in exile. Government ignores him, pretends he does not exist. Official histories minimize his role. Other commanders are credited with his victories. He says nothing, waits, survives. October 1964. Khrushchev is overthrown. Leonid Brezhnev assumes power. May 1965. 20th anniversary of victory in Europe. Zhukov is invited to stand atop Lenin's tomb during celebration. Public rehabilitation begins. The regime needs legitimacy, needs connection to great patriotic war victory. Zhukov provides that connection. He is allowed to write, to speak, to publish. 1969. Zhukov's memoirs are published officially. Pravda begins publishing his articles. Battle of Moscow, Stalingrad, Kursk, Berlin. His accounts become official history. Western historians take notice. Harrison Salisbury publishes unauthorized English translation in Marshal Zhukov's greatest battles. Salisbury calls him the master of combined arms warfare, the general who saved the Soviet Union. Western acknowledgement matters. Soviet regime cannot ignore international recognition. June 18, 1974. Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov dies. Heart attack. Age 77. Official mourning is declared. He is buried in the Kremlin Wall necropolis. Full military honors. The state that exiled him twice now claims him as national hero. The funeral is enormous. Thousands attend. Veterans come from across the Soviet Union. Old soldiers who fought under him, who survived because of his leadership. They remember. They honor him properly. The legacy is complicated. Zhukov was brilliant strategist, master of combined arms operations, expert in armored warfare, the general who never lost a battle. These achievements are undeniable. He saved Moscow when everyone else wanted to abandon it. He planned Stalingrad counteroffensive that destroyed 6th Army. He directed Kursk defensive that broke German offensive power forever. He captured Berlin when Stalin demanded it. He won every campaign he commanded. But his methods were brutal even by Soviet standards. Human wave attacks at Silo Heights. Casualties meant nothing to him. 30,000 dead in 4 days was acceptable price for victory. At Rzhev in 1942 and 43, his offensives cost over 1 million casualties with minimal gains. The Rzhev meat grinder it was called. Entire armies fed into battle and destroyed. Zhukov ordered these attacks knowing the cost. Ordered them anyway because Stalin demanded offensive action. The question persists among military historians. Was Zhukov great commander or merely competent commander with overwhelming resources? The arguments continue. Those who defend him point to Khalkhin goal, limited forces, complete victory against capable enemy, tactical brilliance on display. Moscow defensive showed his skill at organizing defenses under desperate circumstances. Stalingrad counteroffensive demonstrated mastery of operational art. These achievements required more than just throwing men at problems. Critics argue that after 1942, Zhukov always enjoyed massive material superiority. Of course he won. Anyone could win with 5-to-1 superiority in tanks, 10-to-1 in artillery, overwhelming air supremacy. The industrial capacity of Soviet Union versus depleted German forces guaranteed victory. Zhukov simply executed the inevitable. The truth likely exists between extremes. Zhukov was exceptional commander operating in an environment where human life had minimal value. Soviet military culture under Stalin accepted casualty rates that Western armies considered criminally wasteful. Zhukov operated within that culture. He did not create it. He did not question it. He used available resources, including human resources, without hesitation or remorse. This made him effective Soviet commander. Whether this makes him great commander depends on how one weighs strategic success against human cost. His political survival was extraordinary. He survived Stalin's purges by being too junior to threaten. He survived World War II by being too valuable to waste. He survived Stalin's post-war purges by being too useful to kill. He survived Khrushchev's removal by being retired and powerless. The pattern is consistent. Zhukov survived by being necessary. When he ceased being necessary, he was cast aside, but not killed. Even Stalin understood killing Zhukov would be a mistake. The Soviet people loved him. The Red Army revered him. Executing him risked mutiny. Better to exile him, humiliate him, wait for him to die naturally. Stalin was patient. Zhukov outlived Stalin anyway. The comparison with other great commanders is inevitable. Montgomery, Patton, MacArthur, Rommel, each brilliant in their way, each flawed in others. Zhukov belongs in this company, perhaps above it. He commanded larger forces over longer campaigns against more capable enemy than any Western commander faced. The scale of Eastern Front dwarfs Western Front completely. More soldiers, more tanks, more casualties, more destruction. Zhukov's theater of war consumed entire nations, made Western campaigns look like skirmishes. But scale does not automatically confer greatness. The Eastern Front was brutal because both sides made it brutal. Because both dictatorships valued victory over lives. Because neither regime accepted limitations. Zhukov operated in that environment successfully. Does that make him great or merely adaptable? The debate continues. What is certain is the impact. Without Zhukov, Moscow likely falls in 1941. Without Moscow, Soviet government evacuates to Kuibyshev or beyond. Perhaps the Soviet Union collapses. Perhaps Stalin is overthrown. Perhaps Germany wins in the East. Alternative history is speculation. But the possibility exists. Zhukov's defense of Moscow prevented that outcome. That alone justifies his reputation. The statistics tell part of the story. Zhukov commanded Soviet forces at every decisive battle on Eastern Front. Khalkhin-Gol, Moscow, Leningrad, Stalingrad, Kursk, Berlin. Every major victory has his mark. Every major turning point involved his planning or execution. No other commander, Soviet or German or Western, can claim equivalent record. The human cost tells the other part. Millions died in battles Zhukov directed. Soviet soldiers, German soldiers, civilians. Cities were destroyed. Populations displaced. The landscape was devastated. Eastern Europe became graveyard. Zhukov bears responsibility for a portion of that destruction. He ordered the attacks. He demanded the advances. He accepted the casualties. Whether necessity justified the cost is judgment for history. His relationship with Stalin defines his career. Stalin was a paranoid tyrant who murdered millions, including his own officers. Zhukov served Stalin loyally, never plotted against him, never disobeyed fundamental orders. He argued tactically, recommended operational alternatives. But when Stalin insisted, Zhukov complied. This pragmatism kept him alive. It also implicates him in Stalin's system. Serving evil genius makes one complicit in evil. Zhukov understood this. He served anyway. Survival required it. The moral complexity is inescapable. Zhukov was not Nazi, did not commit genocide, did not operate death camps. His crimes, if crimes they were, consisted of accepting Soviet system as it existed, using that system to defeat Nazi Germany, trading Soviet lives for strategic victory, ordering attacks that consumed divisions, accepting casualties that would horrify Western commanders, all in service of defeating Nazism. Does the end justify means? Does defeating Hitler excuse serving Stalin? Philosophy offers no clear answer. What remains is the record. Zhukov commanded Soviet forces through greatest crisis in Russian history, oversaw transition from catastrophic defeat to total victory, destroyed Nazi war machine on Eastern Front, captured Berlin and ended Third Reich. These achievements are factual, undeniable, historic. Whatever his flaws, whatever his methods, He accomplished these objectives. History records both success and cost. The soldiers who served under him had mixed feelings. Some revered him as brilliant commander who won battles. Others feared him as merciless leader who spent lives freely. Both perceptions are accurate. Zhukov inspired confidence through competence. He also terrified subordinates through ruthlessness. Officers who failed were relieved, sometimes executed. Units that retreated without orders were decimated. Fear and respect combined to create effective command climate by Soviet standards. He possessed no personal charm, no warmth, no empathy visible to observers. He was cold, calculating, demanding, intolerant of weakness. These characteristics made him effective military commander. They did not make him beloved human being. His marriages were troubled. His relationship with his children was distant. War consumed him. Command consumed him. Personal relationships were secondary. Victory was everything. After retirement, he mellowed slightly. Grandchildren remember him more fondly than his own children did. He enjoyed fishing, enjoyed writing, enjoyed relative peace after decades of violence. But the violence marked him, changed him, made him into weapons Stalin wielded against Nazi Germany. Weapons do not forgive, do not forget, do not heal completely. Today in Russia, Zhukov is unambiguous national hero. His statue stands outside Red Square. His name is revered. Schools are named after him. Streets carry his name. The complexity is forgotten. The moral ambiguity is ignored. Only victory matters. Only glory remains. This is how nations remember warriors. Selectively, conveniently, heroically. Western historians are more nuanced. They acknowledge his brilliance. They note his ruthlessness. They debate his greatness. They compare him to other commanders and reach differing conclusions. Some rank him among the greatest. Others place him lower. All agree he was significant. None dismiss him as merely competent. His impact was too large. His victories too important. His role too central. The Eastern Front determined World War II outcome more than any other theater. Not Western Front, not Pacific. The Eastern Front consumed 80% of German military strength. 3/4 of Wehrmacht casualties occurred fighting Soviet forces. Germany lost the war in Russia. Zhukov ensured that loss. This makes him arguably the most important Allied commander of the entire war. More important than Eisenhower. More important than Montgomery. More important than any American or British commander. Because the theater he commanded was where Germany was destroyed. This is uncomfortable truth for Western audiences. We prefer narrative where American and British forces liberate Europe. Where D-Day is decisive. Where Western technology and production win the war. That narrative contains truth, but incomplete truth. Soviet Union bore the heaviest burden, suffered the most casualties, defeated the most German divisions. Zhukov commanded those victories. His contribution to Allied victory exceeded any Western commander's contribution. The numbers prove this. The casualty figures, the divisions engaged, the territory liberated. All favor Soviet contribution. All reflect Zhukov's leadership. But acknowledging this requires accepting Soviet methods, accepting the casualties, accepting the brutality. Accepting that defeating Nazi Germany required tactics and strategies Western democracies would never tolerate. Human wave attacks, punishment battalions, summary executions. These methods horrify Western sensibilities. They were standard Soviet practice. Zhukov used them. They worked. Germany was defeated. The cost was paid in Soviet blood. Zhukov commanded those who paid. The final assessment must weigh effectiveness against humanity. Zhukov was effective. Supremely effective. Whether he was humane is a different question. Whether effectiveness without humanity constitutes greatness is a philosophical question without clear answer. Military historians judge commanders by victories. Moralists judge them by methods. Zhukov offers both groups ample material for judgment. He never lost a battle. This remains true. From Khalkhin Gol to Berlin, his record is undefeated. No other World War II commander can claim equivalent success. Rommel lost in North Africa. Montgomery struggled in Italy. Patton was stopped at Metz. MacArthur was driven from Philippines. Every great commander lost somewhere. Zhukov never did. This distinction is unique. Whether it makes him the greatest is debatable. That it makes him exceptional is certain. The man Stalin feared is remembered primarily as the man who took Berlin. The reality is more complex. He was the man who saved Moscow. The man who destroyed Sixth Army. The man who broke German offensive power at Kursk. The man who drove Red Army from Volga to Elbe. The man who planted Soviet flag on Reichstag. All these achievements combined created the legend. Berlin was merely the culmination. Stalin feared him because he was competent, because soldiers loved him, because his popularity rivaled Stalin's own, because he could not be intimidated, could not be broken, could only be exiled. Stalin feared what Zhukov represented: alternative authority, military authority, authority based on achievement rather than terror. This threatened Stalin's entire system. So Zhukov was marginalized twice. Both times he survived. Both times he returned. He outlasted Stalin. That is its own victory. The peasant furrier from Kaluga province became Marshal of the Soviet Union, captured the enemy capital, saved his country, survived 2 dictators, died in bed surrounded by family. That trajectory is remarkable by any measure. The path was neither straight nor clean. Moral compromises were made. Terrible orders were given. Countless lives were spent. But the result was Nazi Germany's destruction. Whatever judgment history renders on Zhukov's methods, the outcome justified Soviet faith in him. He was the man who never lost a battle. The man Stalin feared. The man who took Berlin. These descriptions capture different aspects of the same complicated figure. Brilliant strategist, ruthless commander, political survivor, national hero. All are accurate. All are incomplete. Zhukov was all these things and more. Understanding him requires accepting contradictions, embracing complexity, acknowledging that great commanders are rarely good men, that effectiveness and humanity sometimes diverge, that winning terrible wars requires terrible methods. This is the legacy of Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov, Marshal of the Soviet Union, hero of Khalkhin Gol, defender of Moscow, victor of Stalingrad, conqueror of Berlin, the general who never lost a battle, the man who survived Stalin, the warrior who defeated Nazi Germany at catastrophic cost. History will debate his greatness. Russia will revere his memory. The dead will never speak their judgment, and the question remains unanswered. Was he great commander or merely necessary one? Perhaps both. Perhaps neither. Perhaps the question itself misses the point. He won. That is what matters. He defeated the greatest military machine ever assembled. He captured Berlin. He ended the Third Reich. He did what was required when it was required. The cost was terrible. The methods were brutal. The achievement was decisive. This is Georgy Zhukov. This is the man who took Berlin. This is how the war was won in the East.